The air in the Casina Pio 4, a Renaissance villa nestled within the Vatican gardens, is thick with history. Michelangelo's contemporaries designed these halls. Popes and philosophers have debated the nature of the soul beneath these frescoed ceilings for centuries. But on January 10, 2023, the debate was not about the soul's past, but the future of the mind, the artificial mind. Seated at a long table are figures you would not expect to see co-authoring a foundational text. Archbishop Vincenzo Paglia, president of the Pontifical Academy for Life, representatives of the Abrahamic religions including Chief Rabbi Eliezer Simcha Weiss and Sheikh Abdallah bin Baya, and, alongside them, executives from Microsoft and IBM, the modern architects of our digital world. They are here to sign an extension of a document, the Rome Call for AIethics. This is not just a press conference, it is a carefully staged tableau, a summit of improbable allies attempting to write a moral constitution for the 21st century's most disruptive technology. This alliance is as radical as it is necessary. On one side, we have the Vatican, an institution built on 2 millennia of theological doctrine, tradition, and the metaphysical exploration of what it means to be human. The Pontifical Academy for Life, established by Pope John Paul II in 1994, has traditionally grappled with bioethical dilemmas at the beginning and end of life: cloning, euthanasia, genetic engineering. Its turn towards algorithmics, or the ethics of algorithms, signals a profound recognition that the new frontier of human identity is no longer just biological, but digital. The Church sees in artificial intelligence a tool of immense potential for human flourishing, curing diseases, solving climate change, but also a technology that could fundamentally decenter the human person, erode free will, and create unprecedented inequalities. This isn't a new fear, it's an echo of historical anxieties. The Church's cautious and, at times contentious, relationship with scientific revolutions, from Galileo's heliocentrism to Darwin's evolution, provides a deep, complex context for its current engagement. This time, however, the approach is not condemnation, but collaboration. A seat at the table, the technology reshapes the world in its own image. On the other side of this alliance sits a very different kind of power: the United Arab Emirates. The UAE's presence, specifically through its Ministry of Artificial Intelligence, the first of its kind in the world, is a masterstroke of geopolitical and philosophical positioning. The nation's National Strategy for AI 2031 is one of the most ambitious on the planet, aiming to integrate AI into every facet of its economy and government. Yet, their involvement in the Rome Call transcends mere technological ambition. As a leading voice in the Islamic world, the UAE's participation frames the quest for ethical AI not as a Western-centric or purely secular project, but as a deeply interfaith imperative. It brings to the table Islamic traditions of ethics, justice, and public good, which have for centuries provided frameworks for governing new technologies and societal changes. The collaboration between the Vatican and the UAE, under the banner of the Abrahamic Family House Initiative, is a powerful symbol of a post-secular diplomacy, where shared religious values are leveraged to address global challenges. They are betting that the moral wisdom of ancient faiths can, and must, guide the development of our most advanced future technologies. And then there are the tech titans: IBM, Microsoft, Cisco. For them, the motivation is a complex blend of corporate responsibility, risk management, and market positioning. In the wake of scandals involving biased algorithms, data privacy breaches, and the weaponization of social media platforms, public trust in big tech is at an all-time low.
Engaging in high-profile ethical initiatives like the Rome Call is a way to rebuild that trust. It is a public declaration that they are not rogue actors, but responsible stewards of the future. There is also a pragmatic realization that without a shared ethical framework, a chaotic patchwork of national regulations could stifle innovation and create a legal quagmire. By participating, they get to help write the rules they will eventually have to follow. This is preemptive self-regulation on a global scale. The presence of Brad Smith, president of Microsoft, and Dario Gil, senior VP of IBM, isn't just symbolic. It represents the industry's acknowledgement that the old mantra of move fast and break things is no longer tenable when the things being broken could be social cohesion, democratic processes, or the very definition of human autonomy. The handshake between a cleric and a CEO is a visual contract, an agreement that code is not neutral. It is embedded with the values of its creators. So here they are, these three pillars of modern power: ancient faith, the sovereign state, and the global corporation, gathered in Rome. They are not debating scripture or market shares. They are debating the ethical architecture of our collective future. The document they endorse is built on a set of core principles intended to ensure that AI is developed for the good of all humanity. But this grand convergence raises a fundamental and unsettling question. Can a set of principles, however noble, truly bind a technology that evolves at an exponential rate? And can these profoundly different worldviews, one rooted in divine revelation, one in national interest, and one in shareholder value, truly agree on what good even means?
Building on the monumental scene of that alliance in Rome, we must now move from the who to the what. The Rome Call is not a dense legal document. It is a manifesto, a declaration of intent built around 6 core principles: transparency, inclusion, responsibility, impartiality, reliability, and security and privacy. On paper, they are unimpeachable. Who would argue against them? Yet, as we peel back the layers of each concept, we find not simple directives, but a minefield of philosophical debate and technical complexity. This is the chasm between a principle and its implementation in millions of lines of code. Let's imagine a software developer sitting in a lab in Silicon Valley or Bangalore, tasked with turning these words into a functional AI. This is where the real ethical battle is fought. First, consider transparency. The Rome Call demands that AI systems must, in principle, be explainable. This is a direct challenge to the black box problem, where even the creators of a complex neural network cannot fully articulate how it reached a specific conclusion. For a loan application AI, transparency would mean the bank has to be able to explain to a rejected applicant precisely the algorithm said no. Was it income, debt ratio, or a more insidious correlation, like the applicant's postal code, which could be a proxy for race or social class? Achieving this is monumentally difficult. A glowing complex neural network is not a simple flowchart. As a 2017 paper from the research group at DeepMind noted, there is often a direct trade-off between a model's performance and its explainability. The most powerful AI systems are often the most opaque. The principle of transparency forces a critical choice. Do we sacrifice predictive accuracy for moral clarity? And who gets to decide what level of explanation is sufficient? Is it enough for the developer to understand, or must the logic be intelligible to the layperson whose life is being impacted by the decision? Next is inclusion. The document states that AI must not discriminate and must consider the needs of all human beings. This directly confronts the well-documented issue of algorithmic bias. AI systems are trained on vast datasets of human-generated information, and these datasets are mirrors of our society, reflecting all of our historical prejudices. As computer scientist Joy Buolamwini of the Algorithmic Justice League famously demonstrated, facial recognition systems have been shown to have significantly higher error rates for women and people of color. An AI trained on historical hiring data from a company that predominantly hired men will learn that men are better candidates. The principle of inclusion demands that we don't just build neutral systems, but that we actively bias them. But this raises an even deeper philosophical question. What is the unbiased ideal we are aiming for? Does it mean perfect demographic representation in all outcomes? Does it mean ignoring certain data points, like race or gender, even if they have statistical relevance? An attempt to enforce one culture's definition of fairness could be seen as ethical imperialism by another. The challenge isn't just technical, it's a profound debate about the nature of justice itself, one that philosophers have been arguing for millennia. Then comes responsibility. The Rome Call insists there must always be clear accountability for the design and deployment of AI. This is perhaps the most pressing legal and moral challenge. When a self-driving car in a no-win scenario has to choose between hitting a pedestrian or swerving and harming its occupant, who is responsible for the outcome? The owner who bought the car? the programmer who wrote the ethical subroutine, the CEO of the company that sold it. This is what legal scholars call the liability gap. Traditional legal frameworks are built around human intent and agency, and AI has neither. Assigning responsibility becomes a near impossible task. Some propose treating AI like a wild animal or a force of nature, with strict liability falling on the owner. Others suggest a new legal status for autonomous systems. The principle of responsibility, while essential, forces us to confront the fact that our legal and ethical systems are centuries out of date. They were built for a world of human actors and are now struggling to cope with the rise of a powerful, non-human agency. A courtroom with an empty witness stand becomes a metaphor for this gap where accountability should be. The final three principles, impartiality, reliability, and security and privacy, are similarly fraught. Impartiality is intertwined with inclusion, but focuses on the application, demanding that the AI operates without bias. Reliability means the systems must work dependably and not have unintended harmful consequences. And security and privacy dictate that they must be safe from attack and must respect user data. Each presents its own labyrinth. How do you guarantee reliability in a system that is constantly learning and changing? How do you ensure privacy when the business model of many tech companies is built on the harvesting and analysis of personal data? The very architecture of the modern internet often seems to be in direct opposition to these principles. The 6 principles of the Rome Call are therefore not a solution. They are a problem statement. They are the chapter headings for the most difficult conversations humanity will have in the 21st century. Translating these noble aspirations from a Vatican declaration into the silicon logic of a global technological ecosystem is a task of staggering proportions. It reveals that the true challenge is not just about writing better code, but about first agreeing on a shared vision of a better humanity. And that leads us to the ultimate question of power and purpose. From that deep dive into the principles and their pitfalls, the question of how becomes a question of why. Why this alliance at this moment? The Rome Call is more than a technical document. It is a profound statement about power, a geopolitical maneuver, and a theological treatise on the future of humanity. Its true significance lies not just in its content, but in the implications of its signatories. We are witnessing the re-entry of ancient moral authorities into the... From that deep dive into the principles and their pitfalls, the question of how becomes a question of why. Why this alliance at this moment? The Rome Call is more than a technical document. It is a profound statement about power, a geopolitical maneuver, and a theological treatise on the future of humanity. Its true significance lies not just in its content, but in the implications of its signatories. We are witnessing the re-entry of ancient moral authorities into the most modern of debates, and it could reshape the global conversation on AI governance. Let's consider a speculative scene, a future United Nations summit on AI. Who speaks with moral authority? The engineer who built the system? The politician who regulates it? Or the ethicist who can place it within a 2,000-year-old tradition of humanistic thought? The Vatican's involvement is a powerful assertion of this third voice. For centuries, Catholic social teaching has developed a rich body of thought on the relationship between technology, economics, and human dignity. Encyclicals like Pope Leo XIII's on labor rights in the industrial age or Pope Francis's on technology and the environment provide a consistent intellectual framework. This framework insists that technology must be subordinate to the integral human development of every person. It must serve the common good, not just profit or efficiency. In the context of AI, this translates into a powerful critique. An AI that automates jobs without a plan for the displaced workers is, in this view, ethically deficient. An AI that creates a surveillance society, even in the name of security, violates human dignity. The Vatican is leveraging its unique status as both a spiritual authority and a sovereign state to argue that the debate about AI is fundamentally not about processing power or market share. It is about anthropology. It is about what kinds of beings we want to become in a world saturated with intelligent machines. The concept of imago Dei in the digital age, the idea that humans are made in the image of God, is implicitly at the heart of this. If we create machines in our own image, what part of that image are we choosing to replicate? Our wisdom and compassion, or our bias and fallibility? Simultaneously, the prominent role of the UAE, alongside other Abrahamic faith representatives, is a strategic rebalancing of the global AI narrative. For years, the conversation has been dominated by two poles: the US model, driven by private corporations in Silicon Valley, and the Chinese model, driven by state control and surveillance. The Rome Call, with its interfaith foundation, proposes a third way. It champions a model of AI governance rooted in shared ethical and spiritual values. For the UAE, this is a form of sophisticated soft power. It positions the nation not just as a technological hub, but as a global center for ethical dialogue, bridging East and West, faith and science. By invoking Islamic ethical traditions, such as al-Qasad, or the higher objectives of Islamic law, which prioritize the protection of faith, life, intellect, family, and property, they can contribute a unique and robust framework for evaluating the impact of AI. This interfaith collaboration challenges the secular assumption that religion is a private matter, irrelevant to public policy on technology. Instead, it argues that these ancient traditions contain indispensable wisdom for navigating our technological future. But we must also approach this with a dose of investigative clarity. Is this grand alliance primarily a force for good, or is it also a strategic play for influence? For the religious institutions, it is a way to reclaim a central role in public life and prove their relevance in a technological age.
For the corporations, it is a chance to shape regulation in their favor and gain a moral seal of approval that could be invaluable for their brand. There is a risk that the Rome Call could become ethics washing, a beautiful facade that allows technology to be developed in much the same way as before, but now with a veneer of moral legitimacy. The real test will not be the signing ceremonies, but the audits. Will these companies open their algorithms to independent ethical review by bodies that include theologians and humanists? Will the principles lead to binding regulations or remain voluntary, aspirational guidelines? The path forward for AI governance is uncertain. The Rome Call is not the end of the conversation, but a powerful and perhaps necessary beginning. It has successfully placed human dignity and the common good at the center of the debate. It has brought improbable allies to the same table, forcing them to create a shared language. It reminds us that the most important questions about artificial intelligence are not technical, but deeply human. As we delegate more of our memory, our decisions, and our creativity to these new machines, we are forced to ask, what then is left for us? The ultimate challenge posed by AI is not a challenge to our intelligence, but a challenge to our wisdom.